All right, ladies and gentlemen, new week, new video. I'm gonna have a little bit of fun with this one because this is my nephew's team, Jalen, and we go back and forth all the time. So this video is about the implosion of the Los Angeles Rams. All right, I'm gonna make it real simple, or as simple as I can make it. The moment I knew that the Los Angeles Rams were imploding they lost, I believe, their third straight game to go 3-3. And then they pulled the trigger to trade for Jalen Ramsey. The Jalen Ramsey trade was the signal flare that let me know this was going to be a problem and this team was going to erode, right? And let me tell you why. So anybody that sees my videos knows that I'm a Cowboys and Jags fan. So the Jalen Ramsey trade hurt me a lot. Okay, he even went to my favorite college team, FSU, right? So it hurt to watch him go. But I will take 2 first-round picks in the fourth any day for almost anybody, okay? So they did well in trading Jalen Ramsey to the Rams. Great trade by the Jaguars, right? Conversely, I thought originally I thought it was a good trade by the Rams, right? Because if you remember, they traded Marcus Peters to the Ravens, right? So I'm assuming he's, going to take over Marcus Peters' spot, and that Aqib Talib, who had gotten hurt and was put on their injured reserve, but remember, the year before, he was on injured reserve as well and came back in time for the playoff run, and they went to the Super Bowl. I thought they were going to do the same thing here. They didn't, right? So they traded Aqib Talib to the Dolphins, and they attached a pick to the trade, right? So basically, you had to give up a pick, another pick, right? So that's now we're at 2 firsts, a fourth, and a fifth, right? And Aqib Talib out the door to facilitate the trade for Jalen Ramsey. Here's why I thought that was the dumbest thing in the world. As great of a cornerback that Jalen Ramsey is, and arguably you could say he's the number 1 corner in the league. I don't think he's there yet, but definitely top 3, right? One great corner is not better than having 2 good corners, okay? So at the end of the day, can we agree to disagree, or just agree that at the very least, Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib are good corners, right? Marcus Peters kind of fell out of favor. I personally think it was on the coaching staff that they weren't playing him to his strengths, because he's not a man-to-man, lock your number 1 guy up kind of corner. He's kind of a let me sit in zone and a ball hawk, right? So they got rid of Marcus Peters. Okay, cool. Then you get rid of Aqib Talib. It was said it was in a cost-cutting move, which made no sense to me because he was due to be a free agent. So why not keep Aqib Talib, right? Because you're clearly shooting for the fence, right? Swinging for the fence by trading for Jalen Ramsey. Let Aqib Talib come back for the playoff run. And if you were still alive, right, and you weather the storm, you have Ramsey on one corner, Aqib Talib on the other. Who's going to throw on that tandem? Nobody. But instead, they gave up a pick to get rid of him when they could have let him just walk in free agency and probably got a comp pick. This is called bad GMing, in my opinion, all right? Or at least arrogant GMing. Because what it seems the Rams like to do is they'll take picks, trade them for guys, known commodities, right? It's an interesting tactic. The problem is you have to pay these known commodities. As a Jag fan, I know all about having to pay too many people at one time. I had to watch the Jaguars back in the early 2000s completely implode, watch Tom Coughlin get fired because he mismanaged the cap so badly, we had to cut everybody and rebuild, basically. All right? So that's what now I'm sort of seeing with the Rams. Now, what I will commend is the GM, I feel like, has realized some of the issues, and what he's done is, in cutting Todd Gurley and trading Brandon Cooks, is sort of, okay, admitting, all right, I messed up here, and we got to make a move or this could be a bigger problem down the line, right? So they got rid of Todd Gurley. They should have never paid him the contract they paid him. They paid him 2 years early, right? You could have, at a minimum, I'm an advocate of, at a minimum, waiting till the final year before you negotiate. Or you can hit the negotiating table the second year, but I would not extend a player personally until they're at least in that last year and a half window. Okay. The reason for that is the Todd Gurley situation, specifically to avoid that. You paid a guy too early, too much money at a position that unfortunately is no longer a premium position, which is running back. They're not paying those guys anymore. Had they done that, they would have known not to pay him, save that money, and they won't have all the dead money on the cap that they have this year, which I think is like $20 million just from him alone. And now he's playing for the Falcons. Brandon Cooks, you gave him a first-round pick, and do I think he's worth a first-round pick? No, I don't. Because you gave him a first-round pick and paid the man almost $80 million. That is a problem. Let me tell you why that's a problem. Because when you pay him, you pay Goff over $100 million. You paid Gurley $60 million. You paid, I got figures here, Aaron Donald $130 million. When you pay all those guys, right? Look what happened this offseason. I said, listen, when they traded for Ramsey, it's a wrap for the Rams, especially if they don't make it this year, in which I knew they weren't going to make it because at the time, San Fran was undefeated, followed by Seattle having only lost one game. I knew it was over for the Rams, and they almost proved me wrong, but at the end of the day, what I knew prevailed. They missed the playoffs. I think this year they're in for a rough year, mainly because what I foresaw is coming to fruition. They had to cut Dante Fowler. Not cut. They let him walk. They let Clay Matthews walk. That's almost 20 sacks. How are you going to replace that? Right? So you still got Aaron Donald. Great. You still got Brockers. Great. But you don't have any pass rush. You let Corey Littleton walk. You had safeties that couldn't run last year. Eric Weddle saw the writing on the wall and said, yo, I'm going to call it a day. Right? So now you got Rapp at one safety, and then you got John Johnson coming back, but your safeties still basically can't run. They're like 4'6" guys. They did draft a safety. We'll see what happens with them. And then, right, as though paying these guys wasn't enough and admitting your mistakes and cutting them, you didn't even have what I would consider a great draft, right? It wasn't a bad draft, but it wasn't a draft that filled any holes for the team, right? If I'm looking at the way they drafted, this is what I'm reading into it. They drafted running back, wide receiver, and then they drafted outside linebacker, safety, tight end, linebacker, right? Late in the draft. Based on how they prioritize this draft, why did they go running back when they just drafted Darrell Henderson and they seemed to be high on Malcolm Brown? And then Van Jefferson was a wide receiver I liked out of Florida. I heard was the best route runner in the draft. Great player. But why? Right? So now coming up, you got Ramsey you got to pay. You got Kupp you got to pay. That draft tells me that you're going to let go of either Ramsey or Kupp, or there's going to be some more cuts coming. Not this year, but at least going into next year. You might not see Robert Woods anymore. Here's the problem with that, right? So Jefferson may be able to, get rid of, not get rid of, but cover for Woods. But who's going to replace Brandon Cooks? Because while I think he's a good receiver, while I wouldn't have paid him the money that they paid him or gave up a first-round pick for him, the one thing he does do is run, right? Really fast guy. Opens up the field for all the middle, intermediate stuff that Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp does. So I don't see a lot of room for those guys to operate coming into this year, even though I do like Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. I think they're going to have a little bit of a down year by their standards. And when you don't have room like that, right? Compounded by the fact that they didn't even draft an offensive lineman, which was the problem coming into this year. They lost a center, they lost a guard coming into this year, and then Andrew Whitworth got old. Andrew Whitworth's back, and they didn't draft an offensive lineman until the 7th round. So now you don't have a field stretcher. The defense is going to come in, right? And then they're going to send people, and you don't have time Jared Goff's not going to have time to read the field like that to throw. It's going to be a rough year, I personally think, for the Rams. I think they're imploding, but the best thing they could have did was cut Gurley, get rid of Brandon Cooks, admit their mistakes, and start planning for the future. After 2021, whatever you do, less Snead. Do not trade any more draft picks. At least keep a first rounder, right? And start trying to find linebackers and people that fill the need that you guys have on defense. You're wasting Aaron Donald's prime years right now. All right, it's getting to a point where you might have to literally make hard decisions about let me get rid of Aaron Donald, or maybe you shouldn't pay Jalen Ramsey. Maybe you should recoup some value back for him and just rebuild elsewhere on the team. Because when you lose as much as they've lost, right? They run a 3-4 and they lost 3 linebackers. What good is one great corner when you have so many holes on the team? We'll see what they do. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for the draft picks, Rams. The Jaguars will try to make good on it, all right? All right, everybody, if you guys want me to, let me know what you guys think, what you guys want me to do another video on, and I'll hit you guys back. Peace.